My name is Marianne Foster. I'm 34 years old, and I'm a creative director at an advertising agency in Seattle. I'm also a single mom. My son Noah is 10, and he's the only person in this world I refuse to ever fail again. For 15 years, I stayed away from the house where I was born and raised. I built a life as far as I could from that front porch and the people who watched me walk away with a single suitcase. If it weren't for a phone call one gray Saturday, I would have never gone back. A year ago, I was standing outside my parents' house. The sky was heavy and colorless, the way the air feels before a storm. It matched the way my chest felt, tight, cold, and unwilling. I shouldn't be here, I thought. I promised myself I would never stand on this doorstep again. If it hadn't been for the voice on the phone that morning, shaking and small, I wouldn't have. "Marianne, you need to come home immediately," my mother had said. "Your father is in the hospital. The family is in serious trouble." The family. Funny word, coming from her. For as long as I can remember, there was only one person who truly belonged to this family. My younger sister, Emily. I remember the day I stopped being their daughter and became a backup plan. I was 19, holding an acceptance letter from UCLA. 4 years of hard work, scholarships, part-time jobs, and extra credits stuffed into a single envelope. My parents called me into the living room. They were sitting together on the couch, faces serious but almost calm. I thought they were going to congratulate me, maybe take me out to dinner. Instead, my dad cleared his throat and said, "We used your college fund." I didn't understand. Used it for what? My mother didn't look guilty, just resolved. "We invested it in Emily," she said. "She has a gift for the arts. We enrolled her in a prestigious academy. She needs that money to follow her dream." I stared at them, the room spinning. "Emily's dream?" I whispered. "What about mine?" My mother sighed like I was being unreasonable. "You can take out student loans for college, Marianne, but this opportunity for Emily is once in a lifetime. You're strong. You'll manage." Strong. They weren't calling me strong. They were calling me disposable. That night, in the thick summer heat, I packed an old suitcase with a handful of clothes and everything I hadn't already given Emily while we were growing up. I walked out without a single person following me to the door. No tearful goodbye. No secret envelope of cash pressed into my hand. No, "Call us if you need anything." Just silence. I moved to a tiny room near campus. During the day, I was a full-time student. At night, I brewed coffee as a barista, cleaned tables until my fingers ached, and on some weekends, I stocked shelves in a convenience store just to keep the lights on. There were nights I slept in the back of the coffee shop, curled up on a stack of flour sacks because I couldn't afford my rent that month. Days when dinner was whatever expired bread the manager let me take home, because it was either pay tuition or eat. My parents called a few times, not to ask if I was okay. "Are you doing well in school?" my mother would ask, her tone flat. Before I could answer fully, she'd continue. "Emily has been so busy lately. She just got accepted by a renowned professor. This academy is so strict, but she's thriving." "No, do you have enough to eat?" "No, are you sleeping?" Just Emily this, Emily that, like reciting a daily prayer. Every call was the same. My mother checking a box, keeping up appearances, reminding me where I stood on their priority list. 4 years later, I graduated with honors. Not because anyone pushed me, but because every time I wanted to collapse, I remembered the look on their faces when they stole my future and called it an investment. I was lucky enough to land a job at a big advertising firm in Seattle. The salary wasn't huge at first, but it was stable. Slowly, I stopped counting every penny at the grocery store. I could pay rent on time. I didn't have to choose between textbooks and food. That's when my parents suddenly remembered how to dial my number more often. "Are you coming home for Christmas? We're planning a big party. It would be nice if you could contribute a little. Your job is going well, right? Thanksgiving is coming. I saw a beautiful china set online, only $500. You know how much I'd love it. Your father's birthday is soon. Maybe a Rolex? He's always wanted one." Not once did they ask me if I was happy. They just wanted proof of how well their strong daughter was doing, preferably in the form of something expensive and shiny. I wasn't surprised. I declined politely, but firmly. "I'm busy. I can't come," I'd say. "If you want something, maybe ask Emily," I added once. "She's always been the chosen one anyway." Still, I sent a small transfer, $2,000 on their birthdays. No message, no card, just a line in a banking app. Not because they deserved it, but because I didn't want to lie awake years later wondering if I'd turned into them. 2 years after I started working, I got married. He was once my colleague, Witty, charming, the kind of man who knew how to make a room laugh and a woman feel like she was the only person there. We moved in together, then we had Noah. Marriage, I learned, isn't a fairy tale. It's sleepless nights with a crying baby, dishes in the sink, sharp words tossed like knives after a 12-hour workday. It's two people slowly stopping listening. By the end, there were more nights of silence than conversation. The day I found out he was cheating, something in me went very still. No screaming, no bargaining. I packed his clothes into boxes, lined them by the door, and said, "You can leave now, or I can start throwing these out the window. Your choice." We divorced. He stayed financially responsible for Noah, and that was enough. I didn't need a husband. I needed stability for my son. Over time, I built exactly that. After 7 years of hard work, I was promoted to creative director, $300,000 a year. A high-end apartment in downtown Seattle with proper security and enough space for Noah to have his own room and a wall for his drawings. My life was finally mine, my work, my home, my son. And then the phone rang. "Come home right away. Your father is in the hospital. Our family is in serious trouble." My mother's voice trembled in a way I'd never heard before. For a moment, my hand softened around the phone. Then the old anger rushed back. Of course, they never called unless they needed something. I almost hung up. But then an image flashed in my mind. My father, older, weaker, lying in some hospital bed. The same man who sat in that living room and let my future go to fund Emily's. But still. The man who taught me how to ride a bike. Who once carried me to bed when I fell asleep on the couch. If he died and I hadn't even tried to see him, could I live with that? I wasn't going back for them. I was going back for myself. I needed to know that if this was goodbye, I gave myself the chance to say it. The next afternoon, after a long drive with Noah asleep in the back seat, I pulled up in front of the house I had once called home. It looked smaller, tired, paint peeling, lawn overgrown, as if time had moved on and the house had decided not to keep up. My mother opened the door. Her eyes were red and swollen. She looked older, much older, than the woman who told me Emily's dreams mattered more than mine. Behind her, my father sat in his usual armchair, hair thin and silver, shoulders hunched. Noah stepped out from behind me. For a moment, both my parents stared at me like I was a stranger. Then their eyes dropped to the boy holding the hem of my shirt. "Oh my God," my mother gasped, covering her mouth. "Is this Noah?" she asked, as if she hadn't ignored every mention of him for a decade. My father blinked, squinting as if he was trying to see himself in Noah's face. Noah nodded politely. "Hello, sir. Hello, ma'am." Just like that, something shifted. Suddenly, these people who had treated me like an afterthought were performing as doting grandparents. "He's so handsome," my mother gushed, stepping closer. "He looks just like Marianne when she was little," my father added quickly. "Do you like sports? I could teach you golf." I watched them, arms crossed, feeling a strange mix of disgust and pity. 30 seconds ago, they barely looked at me. Now that they saw a child, a new vessel for their performance, they were all smiles and open arms. After fussing over Noah, my mother finally gestured toward the couch. "Sit down, Marianne. We need to talk." I didn't sit. I stayed standing. "Let's skip the act," I said quietly. "What do you want?" Her face crumpled, tears rising instantly. "The house is about to be repossessed by the bank," she whispered. We need help." I waited. I already knew this wasn't just about them. "Emily, of course." She took out a big loan for her fashion boutique. It failed. She can't pay it back. We mortgaged the house to help her, but now the bank is seizing it. I almost laughed. Emily falls, and they throw my future under her like a cushion. Again. My father finally spoke, quiet but expectant. "You have a good job, Marianne. Just help a little so the family doesn't lose the house." Family. Funny how that word only ever included me when they were drowning. I took a slow breath. "How much is the debt?" I asked. They hesitated. My mother swallowed. "Around $250,000, but if we can pay $150,000 up front, the bank might extend the deadline." My father added, as if soothing a child, "$150,000 isn't that much for you, is it?" My jaw tightened. Before I could answer, the front door swung open. Emily walked in, sunglasses on her head, handbag swinging, the scent of expensive perfume filling the room. She froze when she saw me. "Wow," she said, raising an eyebrow. "So the prodigal sister does come home, here to play the hero?" I exhaled. "I'm here to hear what's going on, that's all." She scoffed. "Oh, please, we all know how this ends. You'll throw money at the problem like you always do, and then act like a martyr." I looked at her. at the girl whose dreams my life had funded, and felt something inside me settle. I need time to think, I said. My mother let out a shaky breath of relief. Of course, just knowing you're considering it. I'll give you my answer in 3 days, I cut in. My voice was calm, too calm, even to my own ears. My father nodded, eyes gleaming with hope he didn't bother to hide. Emily rolled her eyes, arms folded. You're just making a show, she sneered. We all know you'll come back with your wallet wide open. I didn't bother responding. I just reached for Noah's hand. As we stepped back out into the gray afternoon, I felt their expectations pressing against my back like a physical weight. 3 days, I thought. 3 days, and they'd either finally understand who I'd become, or they'd lose the only lifeline they thought they had. On the drive back to Seattle, the road blurred into long gray streaks of asphalt and headlights. Noah sat beside me, the seatbelt strap cutting across his small chest, fingers idly tracing patterns on the fogged window. He waited until we were on the freeway before speaking. Mom, he said softly, are you okay? I kept my eyes on the road, hands steady on the wheel. I'm okay, I lied, just a lot to think about. He studied me for a moment, like he didn't quite believe it, but Noah had my restraint. He didn't push. The city lights started to appear ahead of us, a haze of orange and white against the dark. As we drove, my mother's words kept looping in my mind. Your father is in the hospital. The family is in serious trouble. $150,000 isn't that much for you. Emily has a gift for the arts. Emily, always Emily. By the time we pulled into the underground parking of our building, my jaw ached from clenching it. That night, after I got Noah to bed and listened to his breathing even out, I stood alone in the kitchen, the city humming faintly through the window. If I closed my eyes, I could still see my father in that armchair, his shoulders smaller than I remembered, my mother's hands twisting in her lap, the way they both looked at me with the quiet, desperate expectation they'd had my whole life. You'll fix this, you always do. I poured myself a glass of water and didn't drink it. If I handed them $150,000, nothing would change. Emily would stay the sun they orbited. They'd tell everyone what a good daughter I was. And the next time she made a reckless decision, they'd come knocking again. If I turned my back completely, I'd save my money, my peace, my pride. But I knew myself well enough to know I'd lie awake at 2 a.m. 5 years from now, wondering if I'd let my father drown to punish my mother and sister. I stared at the dark reflection of my face in the window. There has to be a way, I murmured, to help them, without killing myself in the process. My phone felt heavy in my hand as I scrolled through my contacts. When I saw Daniel's name, my chest eased just a little. Daniel and I met in college, both broke, both stubborn, both working nights. He went on to become a real estate attorney. I went into advertising. He'd seen every version of me, hopeful, furious, exhausted. If anyone could look at this mess without the weight of guilt and history, it was him. He picked up on the second ring. Well, Marianne Foster actually calling me instead of texting. Something's on fire, he said. I could hear faint jazz in the background, the clink of glass. What's going on? I skipped the small talk. My parents are about to lose their house, I said. They mortgaged it to bail Emily out of some disastrous fashion boutique idea. The bank is coming for it. They want me to help a little, by which they mean pay $150,000. Daniel let out a low whistle. Of course they do. And I'm guessing they didn't offer to sign over the house in return, or put your name on anything? Just pure charity? You know them, I said, rubbing my temple. They've never offered me anything that didn't come with strings tied firmly around my neck. He was quiet for a beat. Are you actually considering helping them? He asked, not unkindly. I leaned against the counter, staring at the half-melted ice cubes in my glass. I don't want to, I admitted. Not for Emily, not after everything. But my dad, he looked old, Daniel. And if something happens to him and I didn't even try, I swallowed. I don't want to carry that kind of regret. He sighed, the kind of sigh that comes from watching your friend bang their head against the same wall for years. Okay, he said. If you insist on being a decent human being, let's at least make sure you're a smart one. I huffed out something that was almost a laugh. I'm listening. I heard the rustle of paper, the shift in his tone as he went into work mode. You buy the house, Sithi, he said, outright, in your name. You pay off the full $250,000, not just the $150,000 Band-Aid they're hoping for. That way the bank is off their back and there's no question about who owns what. My grip on the phone tightened. So I just become their landlord? I asked, a bitter edge in my voice. No, he replied. You become the only person actually taking responsibility for this mess. But, and this is important, you put it all in writing. He continued, voice precise. You let your parents live in the house, but under a clear agreement. If they manage to pay you back the full $250,000 within, say, 5 years, you sign the house back over to them. If they don't, the house remains yours permanently. No arguments? No, we thought you did it out of love speeches. They understand, from day one, this is not a gift. It's a lifeline with terms. I thought about that for a moment. The idea settled into place slowly, like a puzzle piece I didn't know I'd been looking for. And Emily? I asked quietly. Because you know they'll try to say it's for her too, that it's the family home. I heard the faint scratch of his pen. Then we make it painfully clear in the contract, he said. Emily has no claim, no right of residence, no right of inheritance in relation to the money you put in. She doesn't get to ride on your sacrifice again. There it was, the line I needed. Helping my parents survive wasn't the same as letting Emily drag us all down. I walked to the window and looked down at the city. Somewhere under those lights, people were having dinner with parents who hadn't sold their college fund or ignored their children for years. I'd never have that, but maybe I could at least make sure Noah did. I like it, I said finally. If I'm going to save that house, I want to own it, and I want them to know there are conditions. Daniel's tone softened. I know this isn't easy, Marianne, he said, but if you're going to step in, this is how you do it without becoming their permanent ATM. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. Draft the contract, and I said. I told them I'd give them an answer in 3 days. I want to walk back into that house with more than an apology and a blank check. You'll have it, he replied. And Marianne? Yeah? This time, you're not the one being sacrificed. 3 days later, I stood in my parents' living room again. This time, I didn't come alone. Daniel sat beside me, a neat stack of legal documents on the coffee table. My parents were already waiting, perched at the edge of the couch like nervous students about to receive their exam results. Emily was there too, leaning against the doorway with her arms folded, expression carved in annoyance. My mother was the first to speak. So, she said, forcing a smile, eyes flickering to the papers, you've found a solution? In a way, I answered. My voice sounded calmer than I felt. Daniel cleared his throat. Let's get straight to it, he said, professional and cool. Marianne is willing to pay off the full mortgage and outstanding debt on this house, $250,000. In exchange, effective upon payment, the property title will be transferred into her name. My mother's smile faltered. Into Marianne's name, she echoed. But it's our house. Not if the bank takes it, Daniel replied, unflinching. This way, it stays with your family, just under different legal ownership. My father shifted, frowning. And we would, what, move out? He asked. No, I said quickly. Their heads snapped toward me. You stay. You live here, but under an agreement. I slid the top document toward them. You'll have 5 years to repay the $250,000 to me. If you manage that, we transfer the house back into your names. If you don't, I held my father's gaze. It remains mine, permanently. Silence thickened in the room. My mother's eyes filled with tears. Marianne, how could you do this to us? She whispered. We're your parents. You're really making us pay to live in our own home. My father didn't speak. He stared at the contract like it was written in another language. Behind them, Emily laughed, a short, ugly sound. Wow, she said. You really have turned into a heartless corporate witch. Congratulations. I'm sure your fancy colleagues would be proud. I turned to her. You're not part of this, I said evenly. I tapped a paragraph in the contract. It's all spelled out here. You have no claim to this house anymore, Emily. No right to live here. No right to the money I'm putting in. This is between me and our parents. Her face reddened. You can't just erase me, she snapped. This is my home too. I grew up here. A hollow laugh escaped me before I could stop it. Funny, I said. That's what I thought once. My mother reached for my hand, but I pulled it back gently. We are not signing this, she said, voice trembling. We raised you. We sacrificed for you. And now you want to own our house? Something in my chest sharpened. No, I replied. You sacrificed me for Emily, over and over. This is the only way I can help you without losing myself again. I rose, gathering the papers. If you don't agree, that's fine, I added, standing. I'll let the bank take it. At least then, I won't be part of the story you tell everyone about what a terrible daughter I am. Panic flared in my father's eyes. Wait, he said sharply. My mother's lips trembled. Hannah. Marianne, I corrected quietly. My name is Marianne. She swallowed, then nodded quickly. Marianne, just give us a moment, my father said. Daniel and I exchanged a look and stepped back, giving them space to whisper in the corner. Their hushed voices were tight, frantic. Emily hovered, hissing words I couldn't hear. A minute later, my father straightened, shoulders set with a kind of exhausted resignation. "We'll sign," he said. My mother turned to him, stunned. "What? But—" "We don't have a choice," he muttered. "At least this way, we're not on the street." He looked at me, eyes heavy. "We accept your terms." Emily stared at him as if he'd betrayed her. "You're just going to let her own everything?" she demanded. "After everything you did for her?" "Enough, Emily," my father said, sharper than I'd heard in years. For a moment, the room tilted. Even she seemed shocked into silence. Daniel slid the contract back across the table, pen ready. My parents signed where he pointed, hands shaking. Each signature felt like a severed cord, some invisible bond finally acknowledged as broken. Emily didn't sign anything. She just watched, cheeks flaming, fury simmering behind her eyes. When it was done, Daniel gathered the papers neatly. "We'll process the transfer," he said. "In about 2 weeks, the house will be legally in Marianne's name." Emily let out a breathy, disbelieving laugh. "You really think this is over?" she said, eyes locked on me. "You think you've won?" I met her gaze, feeling oddly calm. "I'm not trying to win, Emily," I said. "I'm just done losing." She smiled then, cold and sharp. "We'll see," she murmured. "Everyone's going to know what kind of person you really are." At the time, I thought she was just being dramatic. I didn't realize she meant it literally. 2 weeks after the contract was signed, the house officially became mine. I didn't go back to gloat. I didn't celebrate. I didn't even tell Noah. He didn't need to be involved any more than he already was. Instead, I tried to let life settle. Work, school drop-offs, late-night grocery runs, the quiet rhythm of a normal existence. For a moment, it felt like everything might actually go smoothly, until the messages started. It was a Sunday morning. I was standing over the stove scrambling eggs while Noah sat at the table sketching a superhero in his notebook. My phone buzzed once, then again, then 6 times in rapid succession. Ping, 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 ping. I frowned and picked it up. A coworker. Marianne. "Are you okay?" An old college friend. "Call me, now." A neighbor from my building. "You need to look at Facebook. Something's going around about you." My stomach dropped. I opened Facebook, and there it was, pinned to the top of my feed, shared 22 times, garnished with heartbroken emojis, sad faces, and a torrent of comments. A post from Emily Thompson. It breaks my heart to say this. Her caption began with a dramatic flair she'd always loved. "My own sister, my flesh and blood, has abandoned our family when we needed her most. Marianne Foster makes over $300,000 a year, but she forced our elderly parents to sign over their home, and now she's making them pay rent just to stay there." She added an old photo of me carrying Noah at age 3, both of us smiling on a beach. A photo I posted years ago, a moment she had no right to use. Her text continued. "Marianne is a single mother who was left by her husband. Instead of learning from her mistakes, she takes out her bitterness on everyone. She extorted our parents, kicked me out of the only home I've ever known, and now she wants sympathy? She's always been jealous of me. Always. And beneath that, pray for my parents. They don't deserve this cruelty. They raised her. I guess sometimes love isn't enough." Hundreds of comments flooded below. "Wow, can't believe someone would treat their parents like that. What kind of monster makes her family pay rent? Emily, you're so strong. Stay positive. Your sister is heartless. Single mothers these days." I laughed. Not because any of it was funny. It was the kind of laugh that scrapes its way out of your chest when something inside you snaps. Cold, hollow, disbelieving. She hadn't just attacked me. She had dragged Noah, my son, into this public circus by posting his photo without permission. Behind me, I heard the softest voice. "Mom?" I turned. Noah was looking at me, his brows knit together. "My friend just texted," he said quietly. "His mom saw something online, about us." His shoulders curled inward, as if trying to make himself smaller. Something inside me went still. Not quiet, not calm. Still, the way the air gets still before a wildfire races through. I crouched down to his level. "Noah," I said softly, smoothing his hair back, "listen to me. You did nothing wrong. Nothing. I'm going to fix this." He nodded, but his eyes were already dimmed with embarrassment and confusion. That was it. That was the moment Emily lost every last chance I might have given her. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed my phone, scrolled to Daniel's number, and hit call. He answered on the first ring. "Morning, Marianne. Everything okay?" "Emily posted about me on Facebook," I said, voice flat. Defamation, lies, and she used a photo of Noah. A short pause, then Daniel's voice sharpened like a blade. Send me screenshots. I already had them in a folder. Done, I said. He cursed under his breath. All right, I'll send her a legal notice immediately. She needs to take it down within 24 hours, or we move forward with a civil suit. And Marianne, this is serious. She attacked a minor. I know, I said. And what do you want to do about her staying in the house? I exhaled. I want her out, within 48 hours. No softness, no hesitation. Daniel understood. All right, he said, get ready. This is going to get ugly. Good, I replied, grabbing my keys. Let her get ugly. I'm done being polite. The drive to my parents' house felt different from every other time I'd gone. Not heavy, not conflicted. Focused. A calm, unshakable fury thrummed under my skin. Daniel rode in the passenger seat, documents tucked in a folder on his lap. He glanced at me occasionally. You sure you want to confront her in person? He asked. I want to look her in the eye, I said. I want her to hear me. He nodded. Then let's finish this. When we arrived, my mother was already at the door, wringing her hands. My father stood behind her, brow furrowed, lips pressed tight. And on the sofa, legs crossed, phone in hand, perfectly composed, was Emily. She didn't even look up until we stepped in. Oh, she said, it's the Queen herself. Here to collect more rent? Or are you just bored on a Sunday? Daniel stepped forward, voice crisp and official. Emily Thompson, I'm acting as Marianne Foster's legal representative. You've posted defamatory content about my client and her child online. You've been served with a legal notice requiring immediate removal of all related content and a formal written apology. Emily snorted. Oh, please, a Facebook post, grow up. Daniel didn't blink. You also have 48 hours to vacate this property. You no longer have legal permission to reside here. Emily's eyes widened, then narrowed. You're serious? Very, I said. She stood, tossing her phone aside. You think you can kick me out? She hissed. This is my home. Not anymore, I replied, and certainly not after what you posted. Her face twisted. You're pathetic, she spat. You and your little bastard. I didn't let her finish. The slap cracked through the room like a gunshot. Her head jerked to the side. My hand stung. My breath came sharp and cold. Everyone froze. My mother gasped. My father's shoulders sagged. Daniel didn't move. Emily slowly brought her hand to her cheek, eyes wide, disbelief flooding her features. I stepped closer, my voice low, steady, lethal. Say anything you want about me, I don't care anymore. But if you ever, ever drag my son into your lies again, I won't stop at a slap. Something dark flickered across her face. You think you're strong now, she whispered. You think money makes you powerful? No, I said. Boundaries do. Daniel placed the eviction notice on the coffee table. Please sign to acknowledge, he said, or we'll proceed with legal eviction. Emily glared at all of us, the room that had always bent to her will, now silent. Finally, shaking with fury, she snatched the pen and scrawled her name so hard the tip nearly tore the paper. She grabbed her suitcase, already packed, I realized, and marched toward the door. Before stepping out, she turned back. Her voice was poison. You'll pay for this, Marianne, I promise. I met her glare evenly. Try me. The door slammed so hard the frame rattled. And just like that, she was gone. 1 year. It's strange how a single year can feel like both a sigh and a lifetime. A year since Emily stormed out of the house with fire in her eyes and poison in her words. A year since my parents signed away their pride and their home to the daughter they once dismissed. A year since Noah watched me reclaim the dignity I'd spent my whole life being told I didn't deserve. A year since everything finally collapsed just enough for me to rebuild. Life didn't magically become perfect after Emily left, but it became quiet. And quiet, for someone who grew up in a home where chaos was the default, felt like a luxury. Every morning, I woke Noah for school. He'd stumble into the kitchen wearing mismatched socks, rubbing sleep from his eyes, asking if we could stop for hot chocolate on the way. Every evening, I cooked while he worked on homework at the dining table. Sometimes he'd hum. Sometimes I'd play old jazz. Sometimes we'd sit in comfortable silence. There was no drama, no guilt trips, no emotional landmines waiting to go off. Just us. Just peace. My parents still lived in the house, my house now, in the old neighborhood. I didn't throw them out. I didn't charge them rent. I didn't punish them the way a small, wounded part of me sometimes wanted to. Instead, I set boundaries. Hard, simple, non-negotiable boundaries. I visited them once a month, never more, never less. Not because they deserved my presence, but because Noah deserved grandparents, even flawed ones. and because I didn't want regret to ambush me years down the line. Each month, I transferred $2,000 to help them with bills and basic expenses. It wasn't generosity, it was closure. A way to ensure that, at the end of my life, I couldn't say I allowed bitterness to turn me into the same kind of parent they had been to me. But beyond that, I gave them nothing else. No emotional labor, no apologies, no open door for manipulation, no second chances for the same repeated betrayals. And they learned, finally, that I meant it. The house itself became symbolic. Every time I walked up to the porch with Noah, my keys felt heavy in my hand, not with guilt, but with ownership, control, history rewritten. My father looked smaller now, confined to that old armchair, the same one he sat in the day he told me my future wasn't worth protecting. His hair had thinned out even more, and some days it felt like his memory did too. My mother had more gray streaks, more lines around her eyes, a tremor in her hands she tried to hide while pouring tea. They didn't treat me like a savior, but they also didn't treat me like a burden anymore. And that, not gratitude, but restraint was enough. Of course, my parents occasionally made the same mistake. They'd bring up Emily. It always started gently. Honey, Emily's still adjusting. Your sister is young. She made some mistakes. She was always emotional, but deep down. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue. I just set my mug down, folded my hands, and spoke calmly. If you mention Emily again, you can pack your bags and leave this house. The first time I said it, the air left the room. My mother's lips trembled. My father stared at the floor. Noah looked between us with wide eyes. But no one argued, not once. They understood, and they stopped. As for Emily, life hit her harder than any slap ever could. After leaving my parents' house, she bounced between friends' couches for a while. The sympathy from her dramatic Facebook post didn't last long. People get bored, attention shifts, and reality doesn't care about curated victim narratives. Eventually, she ended up renting a tiny apartment above a laundromat, a single bedroom, thin walls, a broken heater. Not the life she believed she was destined for. She works at a convenience store now, minimum wage, night shifts, a uniform with a name tag she hates. It's not a shameful job, work is work, and there is dignity in earning an honest living. But for Emily, who grew up thinking the world existed to cushion her falls, it was a brutal collision with reality. My parents sometimes sighed heavily when they talked about her. Emily's having a hard time. We worry about her. She's not doing well on her own. But every time those words slipped out, I would lift my eyes and remind them. She chose her path and I chose mine. The conversation ended there. There were nights when guilt tried to creep into my chest, whispering stories about forgiveness, about blood ties, about tradition. But I always came back to the same truth. Family is not defined by DNA. Family is defined by behavior. Emily had every chance to grow up, to apologize, to change. She chose resentment instead. My parents had every chance to treat me fairly, to acknowledge my pain, to shoulder responsibility. They chose convenience instead. So I chose myself, and I chose Noah. Because that boy, my boy, is the one person in this entire story who never asked for anything but love. And I will not let anyone, not even my own blood, jeopardize the world I am building for him. Some people will hear my story and say I was too harsh, too cold, too unforgiving. Others will say I wasn't nearly harsh enough. All I know is this. For the first time in my life, I am not living out of obligation or fear. I am living with intention, boundaries, clarity, peace. And if that makes me the villain in someone else's version of this story, so be it. What about you? If you were in my shoes, would you have forgiven them? Would you have helped more? Less? Would you have welcomed Emily back? Or would you have done exactly what I did? Let me know. I'm honestly curious. And if you've followed my story this far, thank you for listening. Sometimes walking away from a toxic family isn't cruelty. Sometimes it's survival.